The silent scream. The research vessel. Prometheus Dawn drifted silently through the void between stars, her hull gleaming under the light of distant suns. Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge, watching the star chart scroll across the main display. 3 months into their deep space survey mission, they had cataloged 17 new star systems and discovered 2 potentially habitable worlds. It was routine work, but Elena found peace in the vast emptiness of space. Dr. Kai Chen sat at the communication station, monitoring subspace frequencies for any signs of intelligent life. The xenobiologist had joined the mission hoping to make first contact with a new species, but so far they had found only empty worlds and silent stars. His dark eyes reflected the glow of his instruments as he adjusted the sensitive receivers for the 100th time that day. At the tactical station, Lieutenant Zara Okafor reviewed their defensive systems. The young Nigerian officer had grown up on the frontier worlds where pirates and raiders were constant threats. Even on a peaceful research mission, she kept the ship's weapons ready and the shields on standby. Her grandmother had taught her that preparation was the key to survival in the dangerous galaxy. Deep in the engineering section, Marcus Webb worked on improving their long-range sensors. The Scottish engineer had modified nearly every system on the ship, pushing their capabilities far beyond original specifications. His weathered hands moved expertly over the control panels, fine-tuning the quantum resonance array that could detect energy signatures from light years away. The bridge was quiet except for the soft hum of life support systems. Elena had been thinking about their next destination when Chen suddenly straightened at his station. The xenobiologist's face showed a mixture of excitement and confusion as he studied the readings on his screen. "Captain," Chen called out, his voice cutting through the peaceful silence. "I'm detecting something unusual. It's not on any of our standard frequencies." Elena walked over to the communication station. Chen's screen showed a complex waveform that pulsed with mathematical precision. The pattern was unlike anything in their databases, but there was something almost musical about its rhythm. "Where is it coming from?" Elena asked, studying the strange signal. "Approximately 15 light-years from here," Chen replied, his fingers dancing across the controls. "The signal is extremely weak, but it's definitely artificial. The mathematical progression is too complex to be natural." Zara looked up from her tactical station. "Could be pirates using a new encryption method. We've seen coded transmissions before." Chen shook his head. "This is different. The pattern repeats every 47 seconds, but each repetition contains slight variations. It's like someone is trying to communicate using pure mathematics." Elena felt a familiar tingle in her spine. After 20 years in space, she had learned to trust her instincts. Something important was happening here. "Can you decode it?" "I'm trying," Chen said, running the signal through the ship's translation computers. "The base structure seems to be built on universal mathematical constants, prime numbers, geometric progressions, and what might be stellar coordinates." Marcus Webb's voice crackled through the intercom from engineering. "Captain, I'm picking up some unusual readings from our quantum sensors. Whatever's sending that signal is using technology we don't recognize." Elena made a decision. "Set course for the source of the transmission. Maximum warp." The Prometheus Dawn shifted into hyperspace, her engines carrying them toward the unknown. Signal. During the journey, Chen worked tirelessly to decode the message. Hour by hour, he unraveled the mathematical puzzle, and what he found made his hands tremble. "Captain," he said when Elena returned to the bridge after a few hours of rest, "I've translated part of the message. It's a distress call." Elena's expression grew serious. "What kind of distress call?" "The signal identifies itself as coming from a species called the Sereni. They're asking for help, but the message is fragmenting. Power levels are dropping rapidly." Zara frowned. "Sereni? Never heard of them. They're not in any of our databases." "That's because they're not part of the Galactic Federation," Chen explained. "According to the message, they're located in an isolated star system that was never contacted by the major civilizations." Elena studied the decoded message on Chen's screen. Even through the mathematical translation, she could sense desperation in the signal. "What kind of help are they asking for?" Chen's face grew pale. They say they're dying. Something called the purifiers is destroying their worlds. The message contains population counts that are decreasing with each transmission. The bridge fell silent as the implications sank in. Somewhere out there, an entire species was facing extinction, and their desperate plea for help was echoing through the void. Webb's voice came through the intercom again. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures from the target system. Whatever's happening there, it's big." Elena opened a channel to Fleet Command. The response came quickly from Admiral Sarah Morrison, whose weathered face appeared on the main screen. The Admiral listened to Elena's report with growing concern. "Captain Vasquez," Morrison said after Elena finished explaining the situation, "this is a first contact scenario which puts it outside your mission parameters. You're ordered to maintain your current course and report your findings to the Xenological Department." "Admiral," Elena said carefully, "with respect, these people are asking for help. The message indicates they're facing extinction." Morrison's expression hardened. "I understand your concern, Captain, but we can't risk a research vessel on an unknown threat. The Serenai's problems are not our responsibility. Admiral, if we don't help them, who will? By the time a proper first contact team arrives, they might all be dead. That's not your decision to make, Captain. Follow your orders." The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in tense silence. Elena stared at the blank screen, her jaw clenched with frustration. Around her, the crew waited for her decision. "Captain," Zara said quietly, "we could accidentally lose communications with Fleet." "Command, solar interference is common in this region." Elena looked at each of her crew members. Chen nodded grimly, his xenobiologist's ethics clear. Webb's voice came through the intercom with a Scottish accent, thick with determination. "Aye, Captain. The communication array might need some unscheduled maintenance." Elena took a deep breath. In her 20 years of service, she had never disobeyed a direct order, but she had also never encountered a situation like this. An entire species was dying while she had the power to help. "All hands, prepare for emergency." "Acceleration," she announced. "We're going to help the Serenai." The Prometheus Dawn dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Serenai system, and what they saw made everyone on the bridge gasp in horror. 3 beautiful blue-green worlds orbited a yellow sun, but all 3 planets were under attack. Massive mechanical constructs, each larger than a city, moved through space like geometric nightmares. Their surfaces were covered with weapons that fired streams of energy down at the planets below. The weapons didn't just destroy buildings or military targets. They systematically erased everything, turning forests into ash and oceans into steam. Entire continents were being sterilized by the relentless mechanical assault. "My God," Chen whispered, staring at the destruction. "They're not just attacking, they're committing genocide." On the tactical display, Zara counted the mechanical entities. "I'm reading 47 of those things. They're spread across all 3 planets, working methodically to destroy every trace of life." Elena felt sick as she watched the systematic destruction. "Chen, can you contact any survivors?" "I'm trying, Captain. The original distress signal is still transmitting, but it's very weak now." Chen worked frantically at his console. "Wait, I'm getting something. It's coming from the asteroid belt." The main screen flickered, then showed a face that made the human crew stare in amazement. The being was humanoid but clearly alien, with skin that seemed to shift color like oil on water, and large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the light of their dying worlds. When she spoke, her voice was like music, but the translation system carried the weight of unimaginable sorrow. "Unknown vessels," the alien said. "I am Lirale, speaker for the Serenai. We thank you for responding to our call, but you must flee. The purifiers will destroy you as they have destroyed us." Elena stepped forward. "I'm Captain Elena Vasquez of the Earth vessel Prometheus Dawn. We're here to help. How many of your people are still alive?" Lirale's color-shifting skin darkened, with grief. "Perhaps 10,000 hiding in the asteroid belt. We were once billions, spread across 3 worlds. The purifiers came without warning, without communication. They simply began erasing us." "What are these purifiers?" Elena asked. "We do not know. They are machines, but they think and plan like living beings. They arrived in our system 3 cycles ago and immediately began their work. Our attempts at communication were ignored. Our attempts at surrender were ignored. They simply kill. Zara studied the tactical display. Captain, those machines are starting to move. Some of them are heading toward the asteroid belt. Elena watched as a dozen of the massive mechanical entities broke off from their assault on the planets and moved toward the asteroid field, where the Serenai survivors were hiding. The machines moved with purpose, their weapons already charging for another round of systematic destruction. Lyrily, Elena said urgently, we're going to help you. Can your people move to a different location? The Serenai speaker's multifaceted eyes showed confusion. Help us, but we have nothing to offer you. Why would you risk your lives for strangers? Elena looked around the bridge at her crew. Chen was already working on evacuation plans. Zara was calculating firing solutions. Webb's voice came through the intercom, reporting that all systems were ready for combat. They were one small research vessel against 47 massive war machines, but none of them hesitated. Because it's the right thing to do, Elena said, simply. As the purifiers closed in on the asteroid field, the Prometheus Dawn moved to intercept them. The research vessel was small and lightly armed, designed for exploration rather than warfare. But her crew carried something the machines couldn't understand: the stubborn human refusal to abandon those in need. The first shots of the battle lit up the darkness of space as humanity once again proved that sometimes the most important fights are the ones you can't win. The price of protection. The Prometheus Dawn raced toward the asteroid field where the Serenai survivors huddled in makeshift shelters. Elena watched as 12 massive purifier machines closed in on the refugees, their weapons charging with deadly intent. The research vessel's small arsenal seemed pitiful against such overwhelming force, but her crew worked with grim determination. Chen, can you establish a direct link with the Serenai survivors? Elena asked as she studied the tactical display. Already working on it, Captain. I'm creating a translation matrix that should allow real-time communication. Chen's fingers flew over his console. Connected, you should be able to speak with them directly now. Elena opened a channel to the refugee fleet. Serenai survivors, this is Captain Vasquez. We need you to move deeper into the asteroid field. Use the larger rocks for cover. Lyralay's musical voice came through the speakers, but now Elena could hear the fear underneath. Captain, our ships are damaged. Many cannot move quickly enough to escape the purifiers. Then we'll buy you time, Elena said, knowing full well what that meant. Zara looked up from her weapons console. Captain, I'm reading energy signatures from those machines that are off the charts. Our shields won't hold up against that kind of firepower. Elena nodded grimly. We're not going to fight them head-on. Webb, can you give me more speed? I will. Scottish engineer's voice crackled through the intercom. Aye, Captain. I can push the engines to 120%, but it'll be rough on the systems. Do it. The Prometheus Dawn accelerated hard, her hull groaning under the strain. Elena felt the artificial gravity fluctuate as Webb pushed the engines beyond their safe limits. The ship shot past the leading purifier machines, drawing their attention away from the fleeing refugees. The machines reacted instantly. Their weapons swiveled to track the human vessel, and streams of energy reached out across space. The shots missed by mere meters, close enough that Elena could see the hull plating glow from the residual heat. Evasive maneuvers, Elena ordered. Keep us moving. Zara's hands danced across her controls, sending the ship into a complex series of turns and rolls. The young officer's frontier upbringing showed as she piloted the research vessel like a fighter craft weaving between the deadly energy beams, but Elena knew they couldn't keep this up forever. The purifiers were too numerous and too powerful. As if reading her thoughts, Chen called out from his station. Captain, I'm getting detailed scans of the machines now. They're definitely artificial intelligence, but there's something else. They're not just weapons, they're builders too. What do you mean? Elena asked, still watching the deadly dance of evasion on the main screen. Each machine carries fabrication systems. They're not just destroying the Serenai worlds, they're harvesting the raw materials to build more of themselves. They're a self-replicating swarm. Elena felt a chill run down her spine. If these machines could reproduce, then they wouldn't stop with the Serenai. They would spread from system to system, consuming everything in their path. The entire galaxy could be at risk. Chen, can you establish a communication link with the purifiers? Maybe we can negotiate. I've been trying since we arrived, Chen replied. They don't respond to any form of communication. It's like they don't even recognize us as living beings. A massive energy beam struck the ship's port shield, sending shockwaves through the hull. Sparks flew from overloaded systems, and the lights flickered as power fluctuated throughout the vessel. Zara fought to maintain control as the ship spun wildly. Shields down to 40%, she reported. We can't take many more hits like that. Elena made a decision that would have been impossible for most species in the galaxy. Instead of retreating to safety, she opened a channel to the Serenai survivors. Lyrelai, we need to talk. Not just about evacuation, but about fighting back. The Serenai speaker's image appeared on the screen, her color-shifting skin now showing patterns that Elena somehow understood meant confusion and fear. Fighting back? Captain, we are not warriors. We have never fought anyone. We don't even have weapons on our ships. Then we'll have to teach you, Elena said. Webb, how quickly can we modify Serenai technology? The engineer's voice came through the intercom, thoughtful despite the battle raging around them. From what I'm seeing on the scans, their technology is actually more advanced than ours in some ways. They just never thought to weaponize it. Elena smiled grimly. Then it's time they learned what humans do best: adapt and survive. The Prometheus Dawn dove into the asteroid field, using the rocky debris to break line of sight with the pursuing purifiers. The massive machines followed, but their size worked against them in the confined space. Elena ordered the ship to dock with the largest Serenai vessel, a graceful craft that resembled a flowering plant more than a starship. As the airlocks connected, Elena led a small team aboard the alien vessel. The corridors were works of art, with walls that seemed to grow rather than being built. Everything was curved and organic, beautiful beyond description but utterly impractical for warfare. Lyrelai met them at the airlock, her multifaceted eyes reflecting the emergency lighting. Around her, other Serenai watched the humans with a mixture of hope and terror. Elena could see that they were a peaceful species, evolved on a world without predators or natural disasters. They had never needed to fight, so they had never learned how. Captain, Lyrelai said, her musical voice filled with anguish, we have tried to understand why the purifiers attack us. We have done nothing wrong. We have hurt no one. Why do they wish to destroy us? Elena placed a gentle hand on the alien's shoulder. Sometimes evil doesn't need a reason. Sometimes monsters exist just to cause pain. But that doesn't mean we have to let them win. Webb and Chen worked quickly to analyze the Serenai technology. Their ships were powered by crystalline energy, cores that could generate enormous amounts of power. Their sensors could detect objects across vast distances with incredible precision. They had medical technology that could heal almost any injury. And their manufacturing systems could create complex devices from basic materials. Captain, Webb said, looking up from a control panel that resembled a flower made of light. These people have everything they need to fight back. They just never thought to use it that way. Then we'll show them, Elena said. Chen, can you work with their communication systems to coordinate our ships? Zara, start teaching them about defensive maneuvers. The next few hours were a crash course in warfare for a species that had never known violence. Elena watched as the Serenai struggled to understand concepts that came naturally to humans. The idea of deliberately causing harm to another being was almost incomprehensible to them. But they were also incredibly intelligent and adaptable. Once they understood the necessity, they began to modify their ships with frightening efficiency. Their medical systems became shields that could absorb and redirect energy. Their manufacturing systems became weapons that could launch projectiles at tremendous velocities. Their sensor arrays became targeting systems that could track dozens of enemies simultaneously. Lyrelai proved to be a quick student. Her natural, Ability to coordinate her people made her an excellent tactical commander, and she began to understand the brutal mathematics of warfare. But Elena could see the cost it was taking on her. Each lesson in violence seemed to darken her color-shifting skin, as if learning to fight was causing her physical pain. "Captain," Lyreley said during a brief rest period, "your species has experienced war before. How do you bear the weight of it?" Elena looked out at the asteroid field, where human and Serenai engineers worked together to prepare for the coming battle. "We remember what we're fighting for. We remember the people we're trying to protect. And we remember that sometimes the only way to stop evil is to stand against it no matter the cost." The purifiers found them 6 hours later. The machines had been systematically searching the asteroid field, destroying every piece of debris large enough to hide a ship. Now they approached the human Serenai position with their weapons fully charged, ready to finish their work of extinction. But they faced something they had never encountered before, a species that had learned to fight, guided by a species that had never learned to quit. The battle began when Zara fired the first shot from the Prometheus Dawn. The small research vessel's weapon struck the leading purifier, but the energy beam barely scratched its hull. The machine's response was immediate and devastating, a barrage of fire that would have vaporized the human ship instantly. But the Prometheus Dawn was no longer alone. Dozens of modified Serenai vessels rose from their hiding places among the asteroids, their new weapon systems firing in perfect coordination. The purifier's energy beams were absorbed by crystalline shields, their targeting systems confused by sensor jammers, their hull armor pierced by projectiles moving at a significant fraction of light speed. The machines had been designed to fight conventional opponents who followed predictable patterns. They were not prepared for the chaotic, unpredictable tactics that humans called creative problem-solving and had taught to their new allies. Elena watched as Lyreley coordinated the Serenai fleet with growing confidence. The peaceful alien had become a warrior, not through choice, but through necessity, and she was proving to be brilliant at it. Her ships moved like a school of fish, flowing around the purifier's attacks and striking at weak points with surgical precision. But the battle was far from over. The purifiers adapted quickly, their artificial intelligence learning from each exchange of fire. More machines were arriving from the planets drawn by the resistance. Soon the small human Serenai force would be overwhelmed by sheer numbers. "Captain," Webb's voice came through the intercom. "I've been analyzing the purifier's communication signals. They're all connected to a central node, that big one at the edge of the system." Elena looked at the tactical display and saw what he meant. One purifier was significantly larger than the others, positioned far from the battle but clearly coordinating the attack. If they could reach it, if they could disable the central intelligence, the entire swarm might be disrupted. "Lyreley," Elena said over the communication channel, "we need to reach that command unit. Can your ships clear us a path?" The Serenai speaker's voice came back immediately. "We will try, Captain, but it will be dangerous. Many of us will not survive." Elena felt the weight of command settle on her shoulders. She was asking these peaceful beings to sacrifice themselves for a desperate gamble, but the alternative was extinction for their entire species. "I know," she said quietly, "but sometimes survival requires sacrifice." The final phase of the battle was a desperate charge through the purifier lines. Human ingenuity and Serenai, technology combined in ways that neither species could have achieved alone. The Prometheus Dawn led the assault, her small size allowing her to slip through gaps in the enemy formation. Behind her, the Serenai ships followed, their modified weapons, creating a corridor of destruction. The cost was terrible. Elena watched as ship after ship was destroyed by the purifier's overwhelming firepower. Each loss was a piece of art, a work of beauty that had taken generations to create, gone in an instant. Each loss was dozens of lives, beings who had chosen to fight rather than die quietly. But their sacrifice was not in vain. The Prometheus Dawn reached the command purifier, and Webb's modifications to their weapons allowed them to penetrate its defenses. The machine's destruction sent shockwaves through the entire swarm, and one by one, The purifiers shut down. In the aftermath, as the survivors counted their losses, Elena found herself standing beside Lirelai on the bridge of the largest Serenai vessel. The alien skin showed patterns of grief and gratitude, emotions that seemed to war with each other across her changing colors. "Your people saved us," Lirelai said. "But at such a cost. We lost so many, and we learned things about ourselves that we never wanted to know." Elena nodded, understanding the weight of what had happened. Violence should never be easy. The moment it becomes easy, we lose part of what makes us worthy of saving. Lirelai was quiet for a long time, watching the debris field where the battle had been fought. The galaxy will never be the same. Other species will hear of this, of how the peaceful Serenai learned to fight with the help of the humans. Some will fear us for what we've become. "Maybe," Elena said. "But others will know that when evil threatens, there are those willing to stand against it. That's a lesson worth spreading." As the human and Serenai vessels began the long journey back to inhabited space, Elena reflected on what they had accomplished. They had saved a species from extinction, but they had also changed them forever. The Serenai would never again be the purely peaceful beings they had been, but they had gained something too. The knowledge that they could survive, that they could adapt, that they could fight for what mattered. In the end, that might be the most human lesson of all, that sometimes the greatest victory is not avoiding a fight, but choosing to stand up when it matters most. The Serenai had learned that lesson, and the galaxy would never be quite the same. The Prometheus Dawn continued her journey through the stars, carrying with her the knowledge that in the vast, dark universe, even the smallest light could drive back the darkness. And sometimes, when the need was great enough, that light could teach others to shine as well.